I can go get access to all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
Forgot password.
Yeah. Where's it going to go? To my email.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean your email. It's funny. When people get it, I love it when they get it because they're like, oh my God, I never thought about that. And I'm like, I know. Because if you did, you wouldn't be able to sleep like me.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 441 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden, way down south.
Oh, yeah. Mile marker 0.
In an undisclosed location, a bunker, underground bunker.
I just, I need sunshine in my life sometimes. I have to go to where it is because it ain't always where I live.
Yeah, well, it's not too bad where you live. But no, these few weeks of the year, it's terrible.
Yeah, awful. So, but I'm still, a very good Southerner. I'm not saying I want to go like up north or anything. Not for me.
Nope. But today we'll be talking about ransomware payments.
Banning them.
Banning them.
It's a very complicated topic, and I'm like, I've never seen so many all at one time kind of point at each other.
Yeah. So it's it's one of those things where as you start talking about it, it sounds good initially, but it's kind of one of those things where you follow it down the rabbit hole far enough, and you're like, I don't know, man.
There's
okay.
So many. I'm all for it, but there's so many details that somebody would have to work out.
Yeah. It's like many things in life where it might solve one problem, but what other problems is it going to create?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's some of the questions we'll be talking about today in this episode.
Well then, what else are we going to talk about, David?
I do want to say thanks to those who are subscribers, who are followers, and everything like that, and whatever term they're using nowadays. But check out our YouTube channel. We appreciate that. We've got some good stuff in there, some short clips for those of you who have ADD. You can watch some of the short stuff in there and get some good content. So like and subscribe. It helps us out. Because I didn't know this until we started doing stuff on YouTube, that you can't do certain things until you have so many subscribers.
Man, how many are we going to need? A lot more then, huh?
Yeah. We just hit one milestone, which I think was 100 subscribers, which gives us the ability to, I think, like name the URL, so we can now change it to be something specific. So I'm not sure about all that. I have to circle back around to our YouTube guy to find out. He was more excited about it than I was, so I'm sure there's more to it than I know.
I didn't know we had a YouTube guy.
Yeah. So anyway, go check us out on YouTube and like and subscribe and all that good stuff. We don't bother you to like and subscribe on the channel, though, like a lot of people. So,
no, right? Where it's like, ooh.
Yeah, we don't do any of that.
Get a notification, subscribe here. We're not very good at any of that. That's part of our problem.
I was watching something the other day, and the guy kept saying, I've got a way that you can do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to tell you all about it. And after like the third time he said that, I'm going to tell you all about it. I was like, I'm done. I've given you 30 seconds and you haven't started telling me anything except that you're going to tell me. So I'm done. So with that said, let's remind everybody that the HIPAA privacy and security boot camp, because now it's all of those things, 3.5 day event, in-person event, April 9, 10, 11, and 12 of this year.
And we're talking a real intensive boot camp, not a conference where there's all these, fun and games. We ain't got time for that.
No, as we were planning this conference, somebody said, well, we want to make sure we have it in a location that, afterwards people can go out and do things after the sessions. Me and Donna were like, Nobody has ever went out after sessions to do anything. They're all like, my brain is hurting, my mind is exploding.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I've got to call and tell everybody to not do anything until I get back. So anyway, you can find out more about that at PriceSecBootcamp.com or thehippabootcamp.com. Both of them will get you where you want to go. Go ahead and sign up, register. Of course, seating is always limited.
Yeah. So y'all go check it out. Sign up. We love to see you in person.
Mm-hmm. It will definitely be worth your while. You will walk out there going, wow.
Yeah, there's so many people that do that. I mean, we have folks from OCR and HHS and, and then, of course, there's David and me. And you know what I'm saying? There's us. And you never know who we're going to bring in to do our augment us.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah.
It helps me if there's other people there. I lose my voice if not, because I have to, 3.5 days of nonstop. But I think you should go check it out. Come join us.
Yep. Do that.
Early Bird's running right now, and it'll run till a month out. So you got time to get it approved. Go ahead and make the purchase before the price goes up.
All right, cool. So let's dive into the HIPAA Say What, because we don't know how long your internet might last wherever you're at. I don't have no idea.
Yeah, I got issues. I know it.
You might be on the edge of the grid. We don't know.
Yeah, it feels like it, which is a good thing. So, new settlement, David.
Yay! I saw that.
Yeah, with a really large healthcare operation. Optum Medical Care of New Jersey, PC, formerly known as Riverside Pediatric Group, PC, DBA, Riverside Medical Group. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But it was another one on patient medical records access.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about 150 locations, New Jersey and Southern Connecticut. That's no small task. The case goes back to the fall of 2021 when they got 6 complaints within a short period of time.
Yeah, which makes me question already. Like, how do you get 6 rapid fire complaints?
Well, you got October 5th, 18th, 22nd, November 1st, November 17th, and the November 18th.
Yeah. Like somebody was in the parking lot going, here's how you file a complaint.
I know. It's like, I'm wondering what happened there too. But each of them were individual complaints. They were not like the same person complaining over and over. It was 6 individual cases of not getting the records in a timely manner.
Or maybe somebody was on social media complaining in like a local Facebook group about it. and everybody jumped on the bandwagon. I don't know, man.
They spread the word or something.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Something's weird about it.
But the investigation found in each case they were likely violating timely access rules. Now, they didn't give us details, and I don't know that there's ever been a press release. I hadn't been able to find it, which is usually where we get our message, But here's what I thought was interesting is it involved the Care Coordination Center's email account, whoever was managing that, responding, and then 4 physical locations across the 6. So I would wager the 2 were the email account, and then you got the 4 others to get 6 of them. So that's all spread out. So I don't know what's going on. But it was in every case they didn't get the patient's records within the required time frame. And the resolution amount is $160,000, which, this is a big issue where everybody's like, why aren't they enforcing this more? Well, they can't. They don't want to let, very, very complicated, just like everything else in healthcare. But the corrective action plan is only a year. And I've seen that before when they don't even have a corrective action plan, but not often. I can only think of one that had nothing. But in others, it's a reduced amount of time because they've already made some changes. So I'm assuming that they, really jumped on it, and after this investigation, they already started doing things, and this is, hopefully a brief period, but in their resolution agreement, we always talk about the cap.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically all the same things that we see in these cases of getting your policies and procedures and your training and your all of those things. But there were specific reports required every 90 days. Okay, so you got to do 4, right? It's a year. But it is so 90 days after the approval of policies and procedures, and every 90 days thereafter, while under the term of this cap, they shall submit to HHS a report which includes a monthly count of all requests for access to PHI received by Optum via all submissions modalities, but not, they use PSYOCs for some of the stuff, so they don't have to document PSYOCs. They have to document the ones they process themselves. And here's what has to include in the report for all of those requests. The date a request was received, the date that Optum provided written notice that it's extending the 30-day time period to respond to a request, if applicable, the date the request was fulfilled, the format requested, the format provided, the number of pages, if it was paper, any fees charged, excluding postage, and if records were emailed to the requester, whether either they confirmed the receipt of the email records or they have no indication that the email to the requester was not received. Yeah. And then another report, if they do any denial of access in whole or in part, they have to submit all the documentation about this denial.
Okay.
Thinking, if you're a covered entity, I'm not saying look at this stuff monthly, but gathering this data, if anything comes up, you gather this data on a regular basis and you review it every 90 days or 30 days, and make it part of your monthly meetings or whatever. I think that would be a great idea, and it tells you exactly what to put in it.
Yeah. I mean, as you were reading through there, it's kind of what I was thinking. Like, look, this is already like the format of a report. Aren't we doing reports when people ask for the information anyway? And, maybe they are, maybe they're not, but this is exactly what needs to be in the report. So,
right.
Yeah, good information.
So if I were a compliance manager person, I would want to see those stats on a regular basis. So your health information management, HIM, whatever department takes care of your medical records, or, in many cases, it's those 2 ladies over there.
Yeah.
But tracking that so that in the event anything happens, you can show you do take this seriously. Plus, it's going to keep you from having patients upset or potential legal issues like these and others, if those things, even if you have an outlier, you definitely, want to. But they had to have seriously revamped everything to have gotten 6 of them like that in that rapid fire. Or maybe somebody took over the management of it and they didn't know all of those intricacies, which gets back to the importance of education.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I think everybody should come up with their report using these indicators, these fields.
Okay. My team will be listening to this and be somewhat cranky because they're going to mean they got to add it to their list. Yeah. But, this is 45, 46, getting on up there. in the number that they have, that they've hit on. So.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to think 46.
Yeah. So they said this has been going on since 2019, and it's for the most part they just take it in spurts. But I know of many practices that I've worked with, just single doc practices and larger practices who are under these kinds of requests for information because of a complaint. Now, I don't know of any of them that had to go into a resolution agreement yet, but there's plenty of things that the doctors have to go through, and there are conflicts and a bunch of other things. So it is a good thing, I guess, that maybe they're starting to. 2021. I mean, that's soon for some of these cases, but the cybersecurity ones take a much longer time.
Yeah.
All right, so shall we move on to the fun topic of the day?
Yeah, to ban or not to ban?
Is the question.
Yeah, let's talk about this one. So MCSoft Malware Labs published a report after the new year. That's where we're getting this information from.
Mm-hmm. And this one was particularly, they had a lot of great information, and they had all of these cross-references. So then, I went down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yay. And then that would cross-reference to something else, and cross-reference. I was all over the place researching this one. But their whole thing is their core in this. Here's how bad it is. It's as bad as it's ever been. It's not really getting any better. And we have to do something. Of course, we need to prevent them, but we have to stop paying. Because we've talked about it many times. The FBI says don't pay. And they point out the average payment in 2018, so just 2018, $5,000. It's up 29,900%.
Wow.
I've never seen that percent. In 2023, the average they're referencing is 1.5 million average. Now, granted, you have to go and look it all up, but those are not out of the question numbers for how much we've seen it change.
Yeah. Think of what other industry could you say? In the past 5 years, this industry has grown 29,900%.
No, right?
It's like, where do I invest? Where do I invest?
It's only my business.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, and on top of that, that's funding them to invest in more technology and more, methods, and bring in more people to work for them. I mean, these are operating businesses. It's their own economy. And this whole stop doing the payments, the idea is if you stop paying, then they'll stop coming after you. Problem with that, and they did point out that in one of these reports that 2 states, I think North Carolina and Florida, that put a ban on local governments paying ransom. And that they weren't aware of any harmful effects of that anybody lost all their data or whatnot.
Yeah, but that's not healthcare.
Narrow scenario, and it's not with all the nuances and complications of across all industries, much less just healthcare.
Yeah. But the only way I can think to do it would be to target the insurance companies, because that's where most of this money's coming from, I would imagine. They're not reaching into their checking account and writing a check for $1.5 million. Yeah. So it would be the insurance companies. The other aspect of it is that I think you could possibly pull that off, but people would have to have already put things in place to have been prepared for how to recover from a ransomware attack. Novel idea. Before you could do something like that, because
I ain't got time for that, David.
I get it.
I know.
But if paying and getting it back, potentially getting it back, if that's not on the table, you have to have already made other arrangements to be able to recover without doing that, which my opinion is you should be doing that anyway.
Yeah. And, but we know everybody's struggling to get anything done anymore, but you will really struggle if this happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, they hit us with a quote from a new paper published by researchers, professors, at the University of Minnesota School of Public Health. They had a group that they went and looked into the article that Msoft referenced was from them, and it opens with explaining how a Connecticut hospital dealt with a ransomware attack just in August. And I mean, these are all fairly new documents and reports, by the way. So, but when they talked about it, and of course they diverted ambulances, they canceled elective surgery, lost access, all the things that we know happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that it took 6 weeks before they felt like they announced that all services were back up and running.
That's not bad, actually.
Not bad at all. So it hit 16 hospitals, though. That one attack was 16 healthcare facilities all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they originally asked for $1.3 million on that one. Yeah. So it was a medical holdings company that owned a bunch of them. So that's when they said, well, let's go look. And they published a paper called Hacked to Pieces, The Effects of Ransomware Attacks on Hospitals and Patients. And that report is the featured quote, like right at the top of this ransomware report, that I was like, wait, what? From 2016 to 2021, we estimate that ransomware attacks killed between 42 and 67 Medicare patients.
At least.
Yeah, and they're having to do estimates that say, well, we have numbers, and they're only looking at Medicare because that's the only place they can really get the numbers that they were working for under public health. And they were able to look at, and they also pointed out, we're not sure we even got all of the ransomware attacks. But they were able to look at it and say, okay, on any normal day or time frame or whatever, I don't know how they were comparing them, there was 3 deaths of Medicare patients. During ransomware attacks, there's 4.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a 30% increase. Right? And so they did that and then extrapolated it to come out with those. And then they point out, we're only looking at Medicare.
Yeah.
We don't know about anybody else. So that quote, though, I mean, they had a lot of things in there. And this is where this was a really eye-opening thing when they said the true number of deaths caused by ransomware attacks is likely even larger when you include patients with other types of health insurance coverage. The morbidity effects of a ransomware attack are yet unknown. And then they also pointed out something we've talked about before of, when one hospital's hit or any organization's hit, the other facilities nearby have to take that overflow. Even when it was that one allergy clinic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to take the overflow. So it's a big, broad blast radius.
Yeah.
And they were saying, well, the numbers, at first you read it and it says 5% of how many hospitals were hit by ransomware, and it's less than 5%. Great. That sounds not too bad. I mean, it's not good, but it's not scary, right? Then, when you take into account the blast radius, they said what really we should be looking at is 25% of all hospital markets have been impacted by. Now we're looking at a whole 1 in 4.
Yeah, that sounds more realistic.
Yeah, and so I see how they, so we're really looking at a major impact across more than just the facility that's hit. And, we knew those numbers, but we didn't really take that into account the way they did there. So I was really fascinated with that. But as the report goes on, the big question is, what do we do? Do we really not pay? And what happens if you don't pay? Well, you're in a bind in healthcare. If they take the data and they release it publicly, you're in a much worse spot than, otherwise. But, we've even talked about them using new tactics to make you pay, like the one that reported them to the SEC or the FTC. You found that one?
Yeah, the SEC.
Yeah. You were supposed to report in 4 days, and they filed it and gave us a screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow. But we know they're going to continue to adapt. They continue to do that. We first saw data exfiltration at the end of the year in 2019? 2020? Data exfiltration didn't really happen for a long, long time. But now it's kind of like, oh, they didn't steal your data? You just got encrypted? Oh, hallelujah. But the article referenced when talking about how those tactics continue to change to put pressure on you to pay is a new one I hadn't even seen yet, where the criminals say that they threatened to SWAT all of the patients. First of all, I guess we need to explain what swatting is.
Yeah.
You're our law enforcement expert there.
Not only that, but it was done to one of my kids.
Oh, didn't know that. Oh,
didn't know that. Okay, yeah. So swatting is where somebody will call in an anonymous tip of something happening, like, hey, this person in this house is threatening to kill all their family members, and it invokes a large-scale police response, which typically could be a SWAT team. Not every area has SWAT teams, but large-scale police law enforcement response. And of course, as you can imagine, that can turn out very badly.
Yeah, people have lost their lives in them.
Yeah, because law enforcement is responding under the assumption that this incident is going on. The person in the house has no earthly idea why they're there. And you can see how it can be extremely problematic.
Oh, yeah. And it's never, ever something that you want to happen to anybody, much less random numbers of patients in your database.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a huge... I hope they don't start that kind of stuff. Now, we knew they were talking about notifying the patients, doing their notification letters, and reporting you themselves. So, that's uncomfortable. It's just one thing too far, but it's not like trying to kill them.
Right.
So the conversations in there we're talking about, it's not like there's another from the Center for Cybersecurity Policy and Law had a proposal for let's start getting what we need to do in place so we can ban ransom payments. And, they went through, we need to do this, but there's no way to do something like this without regulation.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no way. They're already saying don't pay. That's the recommendation from the FBI.
I'm wondering why they're not focusing more on the prevention side of the whole problem.
Well, that was the whole section. Is we're doing the prevention, but we're still having these problems.
Well, to a degree, like what I mean by that is you and I both know massive amounts of businesses who aren't doing enough on the cybersecurity front.
Right.
So what I'm, I guess, asking is why aren't they focused on not education, because there's plenty of that out there, but we have to do something that really gets the attention of these practices and or other businesses to say you have to do these things so that you don't become a victim. And if you do become a victim and you're not doing these things, then you can't, there's no recourse to pay or whatever. For example, maybe they can pay, I don't know, if they are doing these things and they still became a victim. So it kind of gives you permission to use that ability, but you have to be doing everything else to have tried to avoid it first.
Right, like recognized security practices under high tech.
Kind of, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. This certainly, I don't have the answer. There's people a lot smarter than me trying to figure this stuff out, but it does seem like you can't necessarily take one single approach. It's almost like you got the drug dealer guy on the corner. Do you go after his buyers or do you go after the seller standing on the corner? And which one do you do?
Or the supplier.
Right. Or the supplier to the buyer or it's just one of those things.
And that's what they were saying is you got to have a multi-pronged approach.
Exactly.
And so we're not saying keep trying to prevent them. The more we do to prevent them, the better off we are because you won't have the opportunity to pay.
Right. Yeah.
So they're not saying stop that. They're saying we need to add things, not take them away.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that had also recently come out is New York proposed a new cybersecurity regulation for hospitals in New York. And I mean, a lot of it's the same. It actually, what is the quote I got out of there? State or the new cybersecurity requirements designed to supplement existing HIPAA security and privacy requirements. Is what they have. And if you go look at the summary of it, it's a lot of the stuff, the IPDR, and those kind of things are all in it. But there were a couple of things that, I saw in there that they must have a CISO. Okay, great. Have one. But the thing is, has to report a cyber incident within 2 hours.
What?
Well, it gets back to the whole issue here of if I haven't let somebody know, I can't prepare the surrounding community to deal with it either. I need to know I'm having an incident. I don't need to know the details. I just need to know I'm not going to be able to see patients like normal.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. So this thing's out there, the proposal's out there for comment there's a website for it if you're in that area in New York. You go check it out. You can make comments to see if, clarify some things in the details. I mean, there's a lot to it, but it's certainly worth anybody who's in the hospital level, CISOs and stuff, to go look at what's happening in that particular regulation because, it could end up being the model for other states. I don't know. But you got until February 5th to comment on it. And then if it's approved after the comment period, you get 1 year to comply with the requirements except the 2-hour notification.
That happens immediately?
Immediately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So from everything that we're looking at, I mean, this year is shaping up to be all over the place. And when I read this is the final little article that kind of ties all this together. Qualys released a threat report in December. And in their analysis, it reveals a startling insight to how quickly attackers capitalize on these vulnerabilities. It's an article in Secure World. I'm a Secure World nerd. The vulnerabilities come out. They find out about them. How long does it take them from the time they find out about it to capitalize on it? That's the question. So, oh no, somebody's found this bug or a security hole. There's no patch for it. It's a 0 day.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take them? So that's the amount of time you got to get it patched everywhere. which, right?
It's got to be minutes, I would assume.
Well, it takes the mean, which, the mean, not the average, the mean, the middle was 44 days. It masks the urgency of the situation, though. It says in numerous instances, it occurred almost instantaneously. Some vulnerabilities exploited on the very day they were published.
Yep.
So this immediate action represents a shift in the modus operandi. I had to go through that just so I could say modus operandi. All these things that we just went through. And they're getting better and faster. And they're getting the money to invest in getting better and faster because they're making a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of look at what we really see converging this year is, you got AI, which is bringing in whole new challenges as well as great new features and all of those things. And then also for those of us who have to sit and worry about these things, we're looking at, the changes that HHS is talking about for HIPAA and security rule updates. We're looking at the state stuff. Also, NIST cybersecurity framework is coming out. Version 2.0 is, I don't know when it'll be out, but I would expect it sometime this year. And it adds governance now, so we don't have just IPDR anymore. We got to figure out how to add it's JIPDR, I guess. But they did have some key findings in here that kind of give us a little bit of hope for fighting the good fight. Less than 1% of vulnerabilities contributed to the highest risk and were the ones routinely exploited. 97 high-risk vulnerabilities likely to be exploited were not part of the CIS's known exploitation vulnerabilities catalog. So it hadn't even been documented. 1/3 of the high-risk vulnerabilities impacted network devices and web applications. Wait a minute, web applications? I thought we were safe there. You can SaaS, we can roll out the updates right away.
Yeah, we went to the cloud. It's much safer.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about it. So network devices, the things like firewalls, you got to learn about them and enough to understand what is required to give you a fighting chance.
Yeah. Like, what's the difference between a business grade firewall and not?
Yeah.
I mean,
but those are important things that if I don't know that, I need to learn it as a business owner so that I can make proper business risk management decisions.
Yep.
So, and then of course, the exploitation of remote services, exploitation of public-facing applications, and exploitation for privilege escalation are the top 3 tactics.
Yep.
Hey, I know we got this stuff coming at us. I know there's things that are trying to happen to improve cybersecurity, but we got it. Everybody's on the cybersecurity team. Like our rap song said. We got to play that more often now. So, for the most part, the cyber war is not getting, anywhere near over, or we're not winning. I don't know. Do you think we're standing our ground or losing ground?
The way I feel is we're slowly slipping because it's just everything else moves faster than the defense portion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially the mindset, because everybody's like, oh, I invested in cybersecurity 2 years ago. I'm good. Like, no, it changed. It's changed. It's changed 15 times since then. I mean, and we're constantly, I mentioned this probably already, but we're constantly reevaluating what we're doing, not just from a process standpoint, but even from a tool standpoint. We're going through our entire stack now, reevaluating every single thing that we offer, because we can't assume that just because it was great last year, that it's great moving forward.
Right. And yeah, and like you said, top of the line is great because you're getting top of the line, best quality, but that also means that's the one everybody's trying to break anyway.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but there's
get around.
There's a massive cost involved in switching platforms. I mean, that's no secret. So when an IT company says, let's reevaluate what we're using for fill in the blank, then the cost of switching to that other platform is very expensive for the company. So am I willing to make that investment? Because it's not something I'm passing on the cost to on my clients. My clients get all the benefits, none of the downside. They're not having to pay any of the money that it takes to do the research, the testing, the experimenting, the rollout. All that becomes completely free to get them into a better product and better protected. And a lot of companies aren't willing to do that.
Yeah. Well, or they just don't have the resources to do it. I mean, there's things I want to do from a security standpoint that I don't have the money to invest in it, but I'm budgeting for it.
Yeah.
I'm budgeting for upgrading my firewall and, and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. And those are the times when you just kind of have to sit down and say, okay, let's look at the 80-20 rule and, what can we do that's going to make the biggest impact to lower our risk down the most, and then we'll move down the list to the next one and the next one and the next one. And just knowing that we can't do everything all at once and knowing that we'll never hit 100%, but let's at least start with what's going to make the biggest bang. And for right now, in my opinion, your email inbox is still your biggest risk. And so I would start with email. And then there are certain things you can do that doesn't cost a whole lot of anything, like training your staff. There's so many free resources out there for that. So why not go ahead and roll in security awareness training and cybersecurity training type stuff? Because there's no cost to it.
Multi-factor authentication. You should be, if you need to, you can do that without paying extra on anything.
Right. And that's a fabulous tool that I'm sure the industry could have said it's going to cost you $1 or more per license to be able to do this, but they didn't. It was a free piece of security that got rolled out everywhere.
Yeah, I hadn't even really thought of it that way. But there's also, you have the multi-factor. Used to, it was like, oh, that's advanced. But now they're beating the multi-factor.
Yeah.
And so that's why we got to get back to pushing out FIDO and some of these other things where you can't, it's not going to your an app where they could get a hold of it, and it's a physical key of some sort that you keep with you, or more biometrics with. Although the ophthalmologist I work with, they're always like, the best way is with a retinal scan. That's the best way that you can, get everything, make sure it's truly that individual. You can't fake the retinal scan. Now, we get to see that in the movies all the time.
Yeah, they did it in Minority Report.
But those things, there's a reason that those things are only used. Granted, as these things roll out, they'll become more ubiquitous. But, you see those in military installations and, super high security vaults and stuff.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's great about not everybody doing very good with cybersecurity is that there's a massive amount of the criminal element that never has to really learn how to do anything sophisticated, because there's always people that'll leave the door unlocked. Right. And if you live in a neighborhood where a lot of people are leaving their door unlocked, if you just lock your doors, you're not going to be a victim because they'll just move on. But if you're in a neighborhood where everybody locks their doors and everybody has an alarm system and everybody has a dog, then the criminals have to be much more advanced, and it pushes that advancement. So there's the pros and cons to all of it. So there you go.
Well, we used to say that the MFA was like letting you lock your door when other people weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody needs to have MFA. It's particularly on email and financial stuff and, well, anything. Social media, it doesn't really matter. You know, you need to have MFA on.
Well, it's a big reason that the whole email thing is still mind-blowing for me is that people still don't understand that they have more things in their email than just email. And, you know, it's access typically to their entire platform. If they're on Google or if they're on Microsoft. And so every single time so far that I've had this conversation with somebody and they'll say, well, I don't really have anything in my email inbox I care about anyway. Okay. What about OneDrive or what about Google Drive? Oh, I've got tons of stuff there. I'm like, isn't that the same platform? What? Oh my gosh. Yeah. And they just don't think about it because we're saying email security and they don't think about all the other things that go along with that same platform that they have access to.
Well, or what that email gives you access to. So if I have access to the email, I can go get access to all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
Forgot password.
Yeah. Where's it going to go? To my email. But I'm in your email. It's funny. When people get it, I love it when they get it because they're like, oh my God, I never thought about that. And I'm like, I know. Because if you did, you wouldn't be able to sleep like me.
That is true. Yeah, these are all things we must worry about. But I think this year there's going to be, things have to be really moving forward with passwordless authentication. The authentication processes have to improve. No ifs, ands, or buts. We've been trying to get rid of the password forever. It's an Achilles heel. And, you know, so that's a big thing. We know the regulations are going to need to change. They are changing. We see the suggestions out there, the guidance on how to lock things down more changing. So I guess we're going to need to keep doing this podcast.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, I ain't got nothing better to do. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. We still didn't answer the question whether or not to ban ransomware payments, but we'll see how this rolls out.
It's still a question to me. I get it, but how you manage that and all the variables that we have to deal with.
Yeah. To me, it's like I said in the beginning, it's what other problems are you creating by solving, in air quotes, that problem? Yeah. So we'll see. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Please join us again next week. And remember, HIPAA's not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect your patients day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.